What's the name of the case again?
J&L Land Investments.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please state your full name and address for the record.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Phil Riva on behalf of J&L Land Investments.
Weren't you here before?
Yes, we were, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I recognize you.
Juan Jermison, J&L Land Investment, the owner of the property.
All right. I thought we resolved this. Is
Yeah.
this a new one?
So, Your Honor, the last time we were here on the advertising. That was dismissed, and then this case sort of piggybacks off of that one.
Okay.
So,
All right, let me hear from the city.
Good afternoon, Aaron Barber, City of North Miami Code Compliance. This case regarding 1922 Northeast 119th Road is for short-term rental, and this was opened after receiving two police reports, May 10th and May 11th, 2019, where on both reports, it's noted that the people that were on the property were renting the property short-term for less than a week.
And when was this?
This was the first report was on May 10th, 2019. The second report was just after midnight, May 11th, 2019. Both of these were neighbors calling out the police for complaints.
and Your Honor, just to preserve my objection for the
Yeah.
record, I'm
Mhm.
going to object on the grounds of hearsay.
Okay.
There are multiple levels of hearsay here.
All right. Let me just tell you what what the law is, okay? Hearsay is generally admissible in special magistrate matters. The strict rules of evidence do not apply, except that the cases hold that it cannot be the exclusive basis for a finding of guilt. So you can preserve all your objections as to hearsay. You don't have to make them. I know the hearsay evidence code pretty
Thank you, Your
well.
Honor.
So I note your objection, but let her finish,
Sure.
and then we can get to the merits of the case.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, again, as noted, the case was opened after receiving the two reports from the police department. A citation was issued for the noise issue, and then the case was opened for the rental based on what the officers at the time were told from the people that they spoke to at the property.
So is there a noise violation and/or a short-term rental violation? Or
Well,
both?
this is for the short-term rental
Short-term
of the
rental.
property, yes.
Okay,
sir.
so there wasn't, somebody complained about noise.
Yes, they did.
The officers went out and did what?
The first report, the officers responded, and they noticed that people were unloading jet skis, approximately 10 jet skis, according to the report, and they made contact with someone at the property who advised she was renting the above listing Airbnb on today's date, 5/10/2019, until Wednesday, 5/15/2019. And that was on the first report. The second report came after midnight.
This is on the police report?
Yes, sir.
Is the police report in evidence?
I believe.
I
do-
haven't
do
seen it,
have-
Your Honor.
I have
Okay.
hard copies of the police reports, and
Okay. Show them to the, to council.
Your Honor, this looks like it could have been typed up in Microsoft Word. I mean, it's just a piece of paper with, I mean, is this what it would look like? I mean, yeah.
This has nothing to do with noise complaints.
which one is this? The jet, what's
You said
this,
that-
jet
you said that
skis?
the complaint was about noise complaint. It's about jet skis. It's a house on the water. The second report was for noise complaint, but it clearly states here, and I'm a sergeant with the police department, okay? So it clearly states here, Your Honor, that upon arrival.
Speak into the mic.
Okay, so this is a noise complaint, and I've already had conversations with Aaron about my neighbor even before I took possession, physical possession of the property. It said here that when the police officers arrived, it says, upon my arrival, I did not hear any music coming from the residence, and the area was relatively quiet. That is this is a police officer that has a body-worn camera, okay? So the house upon arrival is in compliance. So number one, at that time, at 1:28 in the morning, if you get a noise complaint and the house is in compliance and there's nothing coming from the house, as a police officer, and I'm a supervisor for the police department, you don't even have to make contact with people, okay? So, but in this case, he decides to make contact with them anyway. The interesting thing about this is that she used this police report, because she was not there, to cite me for a noise violation, which I had to pay for. So my thing is, how can you cite me for something that I'm in compliance when the police gets there?
We're not dealing with a noise violation.
We're not,
Okay.
Your Honor, that's one point that I did want to raise. If I could get copies of this so I could look at them while we're discussing. But without stating the obvious, Your Honor, every code compliance officer who puts together a notice of violation and cites someone for a violation obviously has a duty and swears to uphold the oath of that office. If I look at the notice of violation, I see that
Your Honor,
Aaron
can we
Barber,
first get into-
excuse me,
wait.
I'm speaking.
But
Do
wait
you
a
have an
minute. Are you
objection?
I do
Well,
have an
hold
objection.
on, I literally did not even get to what I was gonna say. Just give it a moment. I'll finish.
Is it
Then
in
you can
regards
speak,
to
and I'll
the-
give you the same courtesy.
Sir,
Your
is
Hon-
it in regards
It's
to the
in regards
admission
to
of
the notice of
this?
violation,
Let's-
which we're
let's-
here on today.
I know, but we were
Okay,
dealing
don't
with the
interrupt.
issue of
Give
admitting
me the
this into
courtesy of
evidence.
speaking,
First of all,
please.
it's the city's
Okay,
turn to present.
but I was in the middle
We
of
haven't
speaking,
rested
and you
yet.
interrupted
Madam City
me.
Attorney, let me just take control.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The city has not rested yet. Aaron Barber was merely entering this incident
Okay.
report into evidence.
All right, procedurally, that's what we are dealing with, is whether or not the report comes into evidence. So if you have an objection to the report coming into evidence, I want to hear it.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, if I could have the report back, but there's
Okay.
3 levels of hearsay.
Okay,
There's-
I understand the hearsay law.
I
So-
understand, Your
okay.
Honor, and the finding can't be exclusively based on that.
right.
But again, if this goes to court, if this
Yeah.
goes to circuit court, I want to make sure that there's a clear record where I'm stating what those hearsay issues are.
You're
And-
preserving all of your hearsay objections.
Yes, and
Okay,
all of the statements
yeah.
that the person who answered the door to the officer allegedly made are obviously being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
Yes.
And then there's a second level of hearsay in the form of the report itself, and the third level of hearsay, which is the code compliance officer coming here and saying, here is a report. So you have 3 different levels of hearsay, none of which qualify for the business records exception or the public records exception under the case law. That's all I want
Okay,
to say. I could cite the case.
I hear your objections. Now I want to hear from the city.
Your Honor, what I have before you as a request to admit into evidence is North Miami Police Incident Report number 2019-0016911 and Incident Report 2019-0016947. They are clearly marked and have the police identifying logo as a business record. I also have a police department employee here, if you wish, for him to verify that this is a valid police report that can be relied on as a business record.
Okay, read to me what in the report relates to the short-term rental issue.
In regards to Incident Report 2019-0016911, there's a statement when the police officer made contact with a Josefel de la Cruz Guerrero, who stated that she is not the homeowner, that she was renting the residence until May 15, 2019, and that she invited several of her friends over for a drink, and that they were by the pool talking and drinking and did not know that they were disturbing others. So in regards to this case, while the investigation initiated from a noise complaint, what arises out of that investigation is that these guests were here on a short-term basis rental. In regards to Police Incident Report 2019-00-16947, the officer again made contact with Dela Cruz Guerrero, who advised that she rented the above listing on Airbnb on today's date, which was May 10th, 2019 at the time, and that she was staying until Wednesday, May 15, 2019. She stated she didn't know the owner. However, the advertisement was put up on Airbnb by a person by the name of Lawrence.
Okay, and did code then follow up with the complaint and issue the notice of violation? Is that how this got here?
Yes, yes, the police reports are forwarded to code enforcement, and we,
Okay, but
Then open the violation.
did anybody from code actually go there to witness any of the activities that the police officers found when they got to the scene?
no, this was after hours, no.
Okay. All right. Legalities aside, was there someone using the premises on a short-term basis?
Your Honor, we don't know. I'll have my client testify to that in a second. But just
Okay.
to finish my point from earlier,
Okay,
Aaron Barber is saying on May 11th, on the notice of violation, which she signs under penalty of perjury before this very court,
okay.
she is saying on May 11th, I, Aaron Barber, made an inspection at the property. You just heard her testify that she didn't go. This entire violation is founded on a sham affidavit. It's like, how many other things do you need to say?
Where is the notice of
It's,
violation?
I have a copy right here, Your Honor, and I believe this is an original. She has her blue ink.
I got it. Okay. Read to me the section that you just referenced.
The very beginning of the notice of violation. Dear property owner and or occupant, on May 11th, 2019, you can read Aaron Barber, made an inspection. You just heard her state she did not make any inspection. So,
Well,
Uh,
look, this is a form. That's the form they used. She stated that she was relying on police reports that were made by a police officer. I don't think there's anything criminal or that there's perjury because she said I instead of I received a report.
Your Honor,
So, anyway, it
okay,
doesn't
I'm not accusing
matter.
her of that, but what I'm saying here is, because I'm not here to speak to intent, what I'm saying is the originating document is clearly
Mhm.
fruit of the poisonous tree. But Section 2-1 of the Code, Oath of Office, says that every elected officer or official of the city shall, before entering upon his or her duties of the office, take and subscribe to the following oath or affirmation. I hereby do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution, that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the city of North Miami, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office, so help me God. And so without beating a dead horse, Your Honor, I understand this is a form, but if you're going to make a charge against someone, a very serious charge, which could carry very serious penalties, and that originating document is literally untrue, as
Okay.
per the testimony
I
we
don't
just heard.
find anything that the code officer did to be nefarious,
Neither do I.
wrongful, violative of any code provision. Let's just stick to the merits. Was there or was there not a
Yes.
short-term rental taking place on the time and date in question?
I'll
That's
have
what
my
we're
client
here about.
testify to that. Thank you.
Your Honor, I spoke to Aaron Barber when I bought the house, before I took physical possession of the house, and I explained to her what I was doing with the property. The house is not being short-term rented, okay? I basically told Aaron when I first set foot on the property that my initial contact with my neighbor was not a pleasant one. Okay, it seemed racially motivated. I don't want to come here and play the race card, but I explained this to her, and I told her that the house is for sale. It's been for sale for a long time. Okay, and in the meantime, while the house is for sale, I have my girlfriend represents athletes, prominent people to help get long-term deals on contracts. And I told her I usually just comp the house out to these athletes, and of course I'm not going to invite you to my house when I'm trying to make money off of your long-term deal and then send you a bill for whatever time you're there. She's already confirmed that the last time the police were there, okay, Terry Rozier, who is the shooting guard for the Boston Celtics, was there, and he's been there for the last 2 months. It's not a coincidence that when the police shows up, that the person that's there, that happens to be my guest, is an NBA point guard who happens to be a free agent who we just secured a $74 million contract for, which we make 1% of. So that's what happens. Now, I comp the house out to these guys. I go there all the time. I hang out with them. And I explained this to her before any complaints were made, okay? If they have part of their entourage that comes over and something happens or whatever, that's fine. But in the police report, it clearly states that whoever this young lady was had no idea who I was, and I have no idea who she is. And unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to cross-examine her or ask her any questions. I don't know why she said that she rented the house on Airbnb. You know, because you presided over this, and we've already established this, and this was already ruled upon, that the house was not being advertised on Airbnb. It was impossible for her to book the house on Airbnb because the ad on Airbnb did not exist. The other thing is about Airbnb is that the only way she could pay for the house in order to have a short-term rental is if the ad on Airbnb is actually active, because Airbnb is the people that you have to pay, okay? And then Airbnb pays out the homeowner. I've never been paid out by Airbnb. I'm a sergeant with the police department. I'm under oath. I would never lie about this because I could lose my job, and I'm going on record. And what's going on is that none of my guests have ever had a run-in with any of my neighbors, okay? Like I read to you, they said that the house, there was a loud party and loud noises coming from the house. Well, when the police showed up, the house was quiet. Nobody knew the police were coming. My neighbor's making these fraudulent allegations against me because she's assuming that I'm doing short-term rentals, and every time she complains, she gets a knee-jerk reaction out of code enforcement, and regardless of what the police see or find, I still get fined. And I know I'm not here for that, but I'm just trying to draw you a big picture, okay? So at this point, there were people in the house. I do not know who that young lady is, okay? I was told that they were unloading jet skis. It's a house on the water. It's a house that appraised for $1.8 million. I have a dock.
Who was in control or possession of the property when this happened? Was it the basketball player?
Terry Rozier, when the basketball season was over, I gave him access to the house, okay? And before he actually came in and set up with his agent and his family or whatever, he had asked me at one time if it was okay for some of his guests to unload jet skis on the property. I didn't know who was doing it. I didn't know what was it about. I know I have a dock and they can use it. And even that complaint, what's wrong with unloading jet skis?
Let's not get to the jet skis.
Yeah,
Was there a written agreement, understanding, or lease between
There-
yourself and Terry Rozier?
There is no lease or written anything. These people, I allow them to stay at my house like guests. There's no written anything. I would be, if she has anything in writing from anybody who's staying at my house, I would love to see it, because I do not make money off of my house.
There was no compensation paid to you or to Terry Rozier for the purpose of occupying your house?
Absolutely not, Your Honor, and I'm under oath telling you that as I sit in front of you right here with my whole career on the line. I've never made $1 off of that. I do use my house as a comp to get these athletes to sign with certain agents, but I do not use my house like the actual house. Like, you're going to stay here for 5 days and I'm going to charge you any amount of money.
Well,
It doesn't make any sense.
What control do you have as owner to ensure that Terry Rozier keeps the premises, legal? That he's not bringing people in for the weekend or having
Cor-
night parties or doing performances or
That-
whatever it is that they, that they do on a weekend.
That's a good question. I pop it, like I said, I hang out with them, I drive by the property all the time. And even before I started comping my house out to anybody, I called Aaron. I told Aaron, I'm a sergeant with the police department. Please, here's my personal information. If you have any kind of complaints or anything, I will always go by the property. I'm here. I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm letting you know what I'm doing with my house, because I know that these professional athletes, sometimes with their entourage, things can get out of control. We had one complaint, okay, and Terry's been there for over 2.5 months. Okay, we've had one complaint, and that was 2 females that were arguing around 3:30 in the morning. And somehow the chief of police gets called because they're having a verbal argument. And I've never seen that happen before. But again, when you have neighbors that have it out for you, that's what they do. And this is what this is about. And I don't blame Erin, I understand, but what I'm trying to tell her is that this neighbor is making not only false complaints, I mean, the police are arriving on loud party calls that don't exist. And every time, and I got cited for that. So every time this neighbor comes up with a complaint, whether I'm in compliance or not, I get cited. I have to come here. I have to pay for an attorney to come here. And all I can tell you is that I've never rented my house. Now, what I would like to know is this young lady who said that she rented my house on Airbnb, where's the ad on Airbnb? Where's the documentation that she paid for this house on Airbnb? Where is it? Because you've already ruled that was not happening the last time I was here. And we proved it via email from Airbnb saying that the account wasn't even active.
So how do you control the activities that go on? And I know that when you have a professional athlete living on premises, that you're going to have people come over. I live on Miami Beach, so I'm familiar with a lot of the party houses and the activities that go on late at night. How do you control what goes on during the night? And I'm not talking about necessarily short-term rentals, but noise and drinking and partying and traffic issues and debris and all.
I got you.
How do you? You're the owner. What do you do to control that?
Like I said, I pop in as much as I can, and my track record, Your Honor, will prove to you that I've been doing a good job, because she has 2 police reports. Think about this. She has one about unloading jet skis. That is not a noise. That was during the day. That's not a noise complaint. That was not a noise complaint. I don't know what county ordinance prevents you from having jet skis on your property. I was not obstructing the roadway. The guests were not obstructing anything. The jet skis were on the property. It was not bothering anybody, but yet the neighbor decided to call anyway. For what reason? I don't know. What was I in violation of? The police was called. I tell you what she's trying to do. She's trying to create a history of 911 calls to make the house seem like a nuisance house. But in that case, how can I control my neighbor from calling that I have multiple jet skis on my property, which is completely legal and there's no code ordinance there? The other thing, too, is that the entire time that Terry's been there, I've had one noise complaint that clearly states when the police arrived that the house was quiet and was in compliance. Again, I think I'm doing a good job to make sure that no one's disturbing anybody, because I got to go based on what a police officer under body worn camera is saying. His police report is stating that it's in compliance. So I cannot stop the 911 calls, Your Honor, but I think I've been doing a good job with this guy who just signed a $74 million contract, and they can't prove
Okay.
anything besides false complaints.
I've heard.
Your Honor, can I stop the questioning?
Yes, that's it. You've said enough.
Okay.
City, any response? Either from city attorney or code officer?
The only response that I would have is that the neighbors have, there's been more than one neighbor that has been concerned about the activity at the property. It's just a neighborhood concern with short-term rentals in general. And when the, the streets are a little bit, it's a much tighter area, it's not, a lot of traffic will clog up the area pretty quickly. So there has been a lot of concerns from the neighbors, the HOA, and so on. They are concerned about any property that may be rented out short-term.
Okay,
Your Honor, I would
Yes.
like some clarification. Is this being alleged as a repeat violation?
I don't think so.
No,
it?
no, it's
No.
not. This is,
No.
first time, yes.
No,
sir.
and it's not a noise violation, and it's not a jet ski violation. The narrow complaint here, the issue is, was there some individual that stayed there for a limited period of time who was afraid to even give a name because they were afraid that they were gonna lose their deposit? Is that what the complaint is about, or is that a different
No,
one?
no, sir, that was the previous case.
Oh, that was the previous
Yes,
case.
sir.
Was there any money ever that changed hands here between anyone, any deposits
This young
paid?
lady identified herself. She was not afraid to talk to anybody, and she clearly stated that she rented it on Airbnb, and you ruled that that was basically not possible because we proved that
Right.
the ad was not on
Now,
Airbnb.
who is Dela Cruz Guerrero?
I personally, Your Honor, I do not know her. I was asked by Terry's agent if he could have guests that had jet skis, but I did not know that it was going to be her. I do not know who she is, and she clearly in the police report states that she does not know who the owner is, which is a true statement.
And Your Honor, I would point out that I think the legal status here of the people there is one of invitees. I mean, he's still in and out of there all the time.
Yeah, here's I hate to prolong it, but if the record is not clear, then we have a problem. I think under the zoning code, a single-family residential neighborhood cannot become a bed and breakfast for people to just come in and out. It's not a proper use of a single-family neighborhood when you got different people coming in every day, whether you call it short-term rentals or not, or friends of the tenant. So I'm struggling with the notion that there are people that are being invited by your comp tenant on a weekly or daily basis,
Well-
even though that may not technically be a short-term rental.
Well, Your Honor,
It's a problem.
he's not a tenant. He's a transient occupant. I would say he's not a tenant. And the code says it shall be unlawful for the owner. This is the violation we're cited for the owner. And then if you look at what owner means in the code, it means any person, entity, corporation, partnership, trust, etc., or any other legally recognized entity that is the legal, beneficial, or equitable owner of any interest in the property. The persons there who, and then again, this goes back into the hearsay, who are alleging that they don't know the owner in the police report and one or the other. Well, those allegations are just that. They're just hearsay allegations. And I would say that this violation, even just from a legal standpoint, it doesn't meet the code. It says owner shall include any purchaser, assignee, successor, transferee of any interest in the property regarding any penalty imposed. These people have no interest in the real property. I think as a matter of the code, I don't think that enough facts were alleged to even meet the code definition of the violation. But beyond that, there are the other evidentiary issues with the hearsay and the originating document.
Your Honor, permission to make clarification on the
Yes.
city code. Section 5-1610 is what governs
I
the
have it.
violation. If you look at the last sentence, it says that the lease or rental of a single-family residential dwelling, including townhouses, more than 4 times within a 12-month period shall create a presumption that the owner is acting in violation of this section.
Yeah. Your Honor, where's the lease? Where's the rental? We just said that they're transient occupants, they're invitees. It's like having people over for dinner. I mean, again, there's no
Well,
lease. There's,
the use of the word transient actually hurts you, because that's exactly what the ordinance is trying to prevent, is transients for using the property as a bed and breakfast.
I'm just saying transient to make the point that the code requires that it be an owner, and it defines owner under these very specific terms as people or persons or entities having an interest. None of
Yeah.
these people have an interest in the real
I
property.
read the ordinance as applicable to an owner who may be vicariously liable for the actions of a tenant. You may disagree, a court may disagree, but these ordinances apply to owners in situations where tenants or occupiers or people in possession turn around and bring in short-term renters.
So if you were to have a family member over for the weekend and for some reason they decided it would be a good idea to make money off of your back and Airbnb the place,
You would be
that-
liable.
you would be liable
Yes.
under this court's interpretation of the code. But the way I see
Yes.
it, and that's exactly, I guess it's just a point of difference because they have no interest in the property.
Right, well,
Yeah.
where's the proof that that actually happened?
Well, let's not debate the law. I mean, the issue here is, was there a violation of the code in that there were people staying there under the auspices of a professional athlete that were staying there on a short-term rental, on a short-term basis. Doesn't necessarily need to require or in any way, shape, or form need a consideration to money to change hands. Were there people, and I'm trying to come to a resolution in my mind as to whether the person in possession of your property was bringing people in for the weekend who were not part of his family, and that's.
I understand that, Your Honor, but the police report clearly states that she Airbnb'd the house. So all I'm asking.
I can't hear you while you're.
I'm sorry, Your
okay.
Honor. The police report clearly states that this young lady, De La Cruz, or whatever her last name is, she clearly states that, besides the fact that she said she doesn't know me, which I don't know her, she clearly states that she short-term rented the house on Airbnb. Can we at least prove that she short-term rented the house on Airbnb? This is what she's saying. I'm not saying this. She's saying I booked this house on Airbnb, and we went through this before. How can you book something that I've already proven in this courtroom did not exist? There is no Airbnb ad for that property. So how can you book something on Airbnb that does not exist? And how can you pay for short-term rental via Airbnb if there's no active account? So even if Terry Rozier's entourage was doing short-term rental unbeknownst to me, can you at least prove to me that they actually put an ad on Airbnb and made money off of my house, even if it's unbeknownst to me? That's the problem.
All right,
She's going based
city
on that.
attorney, how do you respond to that? Do we have an Airbnb record to support what this individual allegedly told the police officer?
I'll defer to Officer Barber whether she was able to obtain anything off Airbnb to confirm what was in the police report.
No, I wasn't able to find anything on Airbnb at the time.
And, Your Honor, I have no recollection of this prior case where the Airbnb, that there was a ruling from the court that there was no possible way that this property was ever listed on Airbnb.
I don't recall either, quite frankly, but it doesn't matter because that was another case separate from this one, which had to do with an advertisement, not an actual rental. So I'm totally disregarding any suggestion that it could be, or maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
The burden of proof is on them to prove
Well,
that this was on
that's
Airbnb?
how I ruled the last hearing on burden of proof, and
Your Honor also ruled that there has to be a nexus between the advert.
Yes.
Your Honor stated that you had previously ruled there has to be a nexus between the advertisement and the owner or
well, the
occupant.
nexus here is that a code officer or a police officer went out there and actually interviewed someone who claimed to have been renting short-term through Airbnb.
Well, I think the record is clear that it wasn't a code officer. It was an
police
actual officer.
That's why I corrected myself.
The notice of violation, by the way, one more thing, Your Honor, that I also want to preserve for the record. The bottom right corner of the notice of violation says reinspection date scheduled for May 27th, 2019. So my question to the court is, do code compliance officers work on Memorial Day?
All right, that's not relevant.
Okay.
I don't, let me just.
I don't know, because I'm actually genuinely
Let
curious
me-
if that's the case.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Let's cut to the chase. What is the city recommending? This is a first offense, and typically on a violation of the code, there is an abatement period within which to comply. Is there an issue here that there should be an abatement date to comply, or what is the city's position on
The
this?
city's position is that the nature of the violation is one that is irreparable and irreversible in nature, so an abatement date is a moot point. The nature of the violation is that the house can't be unrented. The owner cannot go back in time and unrent the house on the day and time that the alleged violation occurred. Your Honor, in cases where the magistrate does find the violation to be one that's irreparable or irreversible in nature, it allows you to enter a fine in an amount not exceeding $15,000. So the city's requesting a one-time flat fine for the violation which occurred. And the city's position is that the two police reports are clear evidence that the violation did occur on those days and times. There was two separate statements made to two separate police officers, the same statement that there was a certain period of time, I believe it was a 1-week period of time, starting May 10th, 2019 to May 17th, 2019, where these occupants that the property owner alleges that he doesn't know were in the property on a lease basis. And that was her statement, two separate times to two separate police officers. I just don't see the motivation that this person would have had to give these specific details to a police officer when the police officer came at late hours in one instance to the property. I just don't see what would be her motive
wait.
to make this statement to the police officers if it was in fact false. If she was an invitee there or a guest there, I just don't see what was her motivation for that statement. So the city's position is that the evidence is clear. You have two statements from two separate police officers that came onto the property, made contact with this occupant who gave these details.
One final comment, and then I'll rule.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you. It says in the notice of violation, you are notified the conditions mentioned above must be abated by the next reinspection date. Well, that obviously with my client's not going to be an issue. It's not going to happen again, but my client would just like to say one final word.
Your Honor, I had Terry's agent reach out to this young lady to find out what happened, because I found out about these police reports after the fact. And basically, and this is hearsay, basically when you are at a house and you don't belong there, you may feel like you need to. The police went there twice for things that they did nothing wrong about. So what I heard through them is that I guess she needed to feel some sense of ownership and said she Airbnb'd the house, which is impossible to do, which no one has proof that she did. So I'm just going on the assumption, based on the hearsay information, if I'm at a house that doesn't belong to somebody who invited me there, and the cops have been there 2 times already for something that I'm not doing, when I'm not doing anything wrong, it could be a very innocent thing for me to say, I'm renting the house, I belong here, leave me alone. I don't understand. This is why she supposedly told them that she said she was Airbnb-ing the house.
Was she there with somebody's permission?
She was there. I was asked by Terry's people, can she go there? And when I say she, I just say in general. I didn't know who the actual person was. They asked me if it was okay for some of their friends to bring some jet skis over. I told them it was fine, that I had a dock there. But if you get the police over there because you're unloading the jet skis, even though it's not against the law, and then the next day or 2 days later or whenever it was, you get the police again knocking on your door at 1 o'clock in the morning, even though you're not doing nothing wrong. It's probably something that she says, you know what, I'm renting the house, I belong here. I mean, we've had situations where
All right.
people,
What agency are you with?
I'm with the Miami-Dade Police Department, Your Honor.
And you're a sergeant?
I'm a sergeant, and I back these guys up all the time, and I know a lot of their officers, and I've never asked them for any help. I've never asked for anybody to cover for me or anything like that.
What can you assure me? How can you assure me that this type of incident, where your friend, client, tenant, whatever you want to call him, is inviting friends, relatives, business partners, acquaintances to come over on a day basis, use the jet skis, use the swimming pool?
Yeah.
This type of behavior is not acceptable in a single-family residential neighborhood. What can you state on the record that will satisfy me and the city that this type of activity will not happen?
Yeah, I've actually talked to the chief of police about this also, because I'm not hiding from any of this, but I'm not going to admit to anything that I'm not doing wrong. My biggest mistake was telling Terry that it was okay for someone that he knows to come in and bring jet skis and use the property. I should have just said no and just told Terry, just keep it tight between you, your agent, and your family while you do whatever it is that you need to do. It looks like if I would have just said no to his guests, so basically, for me allowing my guests to have more guests, it seems that to be the problem.
That's the problem, and it's not just unique to you. It's unique to whoever rents a house to an entertainer, an actress, singer. It happens all over South Florida.
I'm learning as I go along, and I could only learn from my mistakes. And I agree that that was a mistake. But to sit here and say that that these allegations are as they exist, I just have a
What
problem.
have
with
you
that.
told Terry that he must do from now on?
Well, Terry's getting ready to leave anyway. He just signed a $74 million contract,
Good
so
for
he's
him.
he's pretty much done. So he's getting ready to leave. But I'm just saying, in future in general, whether it's Terry or anyone else, I will do my best. And like I told Erin, she has my personal information. I will do my best to stop by the house as often as I can, even if it's on a daily situation. And I won't extend my guests to have any other guests that are unapproved by me. I don't know what else I could do, whatever else I could do. If Erin has any suggestions, I will do it. I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, I've sat with the chief of police. I don't want my neighbors to be upset with me, but I also know what kind of neighbors I have.
Well, here's my problem as a special magistrate, sitting here trying to hear the evidence and come to the right decision. And I'm saying this having been involved in short-term rental issues before. Number one, I don't have a live witness telling me I was doing short-term rentals. Number two, I don't have a neighbor telling me I saw people there over the weekend that shouldn't have been there, that were renting or new people that come in and out. Number three, I don't have a police officer here present telling me this is what I witnessed when I was there. I don't believe that the business record exception to the hearsay rule applies under these circumstances. We need to have more than double hearsay or triple hearsay. So while I may be inclined to believe that there was some activity that might have been violative of the code section in question, I have a feeling that that might be true. I just don't think the city has met its burden of proof. And so therefore, on this particular violation, I am going to dismiss it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case. Uh, 2105 Ixora Road? Okay, anybody here from the property owner? Okay,
There's nobody here representing the property owner. Steve Pizzle, building official for the city of North Miami. Need to give you a little bit of background information on this one. This is a house that we're looking for an unsafe declaration on, so maybe eventually take it to Unsafe Structures Board. Reason being is that there has, it's been a blue tarp house, to the point where the trusses are damaged on this house. It was due to hurricane damage, Hurricane Wilma, and the house has been in disrepair now for over a decade. It's a little bit special with this property. The owner is a disabled vet. The city has reached out to him. At one point in time, the police department had made arrangements for a contractor to donate a roof.
right.
Unfortunately, besides being a disabled vet, he's also a lawyer, and the contracts were he never liked the contracts. We also tried to get him involved in the city's program for roofing, and they never completed all the paperwork for it. So we're at a loss now, because we've spent years between postponements and trying to get help for him but in the meantime now, this house has been in disrepair for a decade.
Is he still residing? in the
We're
house?
not 100% sure. He's not there all the time. We do believe he is there from time to time.
Have you made a recommendation to the Board of Rules and Appeals to have the property demolished?
No, actually, we have our own unsafe structures board now, so we will eventually.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
No,
yeah.
we will be, once we get a ruling from you for that, we will be looking into going that route. Hopefully, we're hoping that.
What ruling do you need from me?
That you're in agreement that it meets the criteria of an unsafe structure according to our code.
I rely on you, the building official, and I accept your testimony as such.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so it is an unsafe structure. That's my ruling, and so take whatever necessary steps you need to make the corrections.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Pilar? Pilar?
The next case is Klaus Haas LLC, FYBRR 2017-00038. Gary Beswick is the officer.
State your name and address.
Good afternoon, Bruce Benjamin Roden, address 12450 Northeast 13th Avenue.
How do you spell your last name?
Roden, R-O-D-E-N.
And, okay. And you're the agent for Claus House
The
LLC?
owner.
Okay, the owner, okay.
Yes.
All right. City?
Good afternoon, Gary Beswick for the City of North Miami. This is for a 40-year recertification, which basically was due before he purchased the property. And he purchased the property and doing some demolition and some renovation to the property. So basically, that kind of helped to slow the process. So he's here now to let us know where he at, how much time he need before he can deliver us our 40-year recertification.
All right,
report.
this was previously tabled
Yes.
until June 19th. So, how much time do you need?
I would like to request 60 days. We're currently in the process of getting our demo permit approved by Dade County Fire. Once we get that approval out of the Dade County, which should be this week, then we can schedule our fire inspection. Then we can schedule our final building inspection, which I plan to do before the end of the month. And then once that's done, I can get my 40-year inspection, which I already have my qualified person to do that. Once the demo permit is closed, they have proof of that. They can do their 40-year inspection and close out.
Is that okay?
Yes.
You said 60 or 90?
I said 60.
You can give
Okay.
it 90.
90 would work.
90.
All right, let's table it for 90 days.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next case is La Fortune Almanord, case number CEEXP 2019-00081. Karen Jean Lewis is the officer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Please state your full name,
La Fortune Almonod,
your address.
1150 Northeast 144.
Are you the owner of the property?
I am.
Okay. City?
Good afternoon, Code Compliance Officer Karen Jean Lewis. This property was cited on April 1st, 2019 to pressure clean and paint.
That's it?
Yep.
How much time do you need, sir?
I need my helper is on vacation now, but he's come back on August 10th, so I need about 1 month and a half or 2 months.
Okay,
Because
I'm
I
gonna
got to give him a time, you understand?
I'm gonna give you 2 months.
Oh, thank you.
Based on the testimony of the city's code compliance officer and the evidence presented depicting that the cited violation still exists and the proper notice has been given, I find in favor of the city entering adjudication, set an abatement date of 60 days. In the event of non-compliance, there will be a daily fine of $250 until the violation is abated. So
That's good.
you gotta move on it quickly.
Thank you. I will.
Next case involves the same property,
you.
right? Don't go away, no?
No, that
The
case
other one was complied
The other one was complied with.
for the outdoor storage, yes.
Okay, is that the carport?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next one.
The
Thank
next
you.
case is Leota Dolphin, case number CEBPR 2017-00154. Shanna Sanders is the officer.
Anybody here? Leota Dolphin? 1140 Northeast 140th. Nobody here? All right, city, proceed.
Shannon Sanders, City of North Miami Code Compliance Officer, hearing this case for Code Manager Crystal Cardo. This case was originally opened September of 2017. As of last week, Wednesday, I'm showing here still no building permits have been obtained. They have a structure in the rear of the property that was put up without obtaining a permit. They were already adjudicated. I believe it was January. The magistrate gave them some time to pull the permits in or to remove the structure. Again, as of last week, permits still haven't been obtained, and the structure still remains.
Okay, based on the unrebutted testimony of the city's code compliance officer, the evidence presented, and that the property is out of compliance and has been out of compliance since the abatement date of April 10th, 2019, I hereby find in favor of the city. I hereby ratify the fines accrued to date in the amount of $250 per day, assessed cost, and authorize the filing of a lien. The said fines shall continue to run on a daily basis until there is compliance. Next case.
Long Island Apartments, MHZCU 2019-00001, Gary Beswick.
Anybody here? Okay, Long Island Apartments LLC.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Please state your full name and address.
Mercedes Alina Carcasses. I am the property manager for Long Island. Give me a second. Hold on. It was cold in here.
Last name, ma'am?
Mercedes Carcasses. And the owner here is Valentina Georgescu.
Okay, and spell the last name of the owner?
Georgescu.
G-E?
Orgescu.
Okay.
And the address is 12550 Biscayne Avenue.
Biscayne Boulevard. I want to hear from the city.
Good afternoon, Gary Beswick for the City of North Miami Building Department. There's a violation to obtain a certificate of use, but in order for them to get a certificate of use, they have to take care of some permitting issue, which they're in the process of doing. So basically, they're just here to give us an update of where they're at with that.
What's the problem? It's a pretty easy thing to do to get a
Correct.
certificate of use.
Correct, Your Honor. Apparently, there were some plans that were done and given to the fire department, to Mr. Carlos Rodriguez over at the Fire Engineer and Water Supply Bureau at Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department. And apparently, there was 2 doors that were supposed to be placed on a plan, which those were the ones that we gave the fire department. And when we went back there, they're saying that they want the plans to be redone back to the way it is, because apparently we should not have added the doors that were requested by the city to be added to that.
Because they're already there.
Yeah, because they're already there. But the city wanted other doors added on another place. The fire department.
So there's a conflict between what the city is telling you and what the fire department is saying?
Department with the fire.
You
The-
need
the
to
two
speak
fi-
into the mic.
Okay, it's the fire department with the fire department. One fire personnel told us that we had to add doors. And so the plans were done, drawn, and given to the fire department, to the fire plans review person. When Valentina went there on Monday, they want us to correct and put it back, the plans, to the same way, because we do not need those doors.
So more time, we need more time.
So we just need more times now, at least if we can have 60 days, so we don't.
Okay, any response to the apparent difference between one department and the other department?
No, well, it's not a 2 different department. What she's saying is, one person from the fire department said one thing, then another person from the fire department said something different. It's not from the city, it's from the Miami-Dade Fire.
Okay.
Yes.
So, do we have it right? I mean, do we now have the right plans?
No, he told me to come Thursday morning to take.
Okay, I can't hear you. You need to speak into the mic and
In the last
little louder.
Yeah, in the last conversation with Mr. Carlos Rodriguez from Miami-Dade, he told me to come back on Thursday.
So today I have to call to take another appointment to go there. The architect sent already the plans.
What kind of business do you run out of this property?
It's a tenant there.
There's a tenant, but what, is it a commercial business or
It's a commercial.
commercial property?
It's
Yeah,
immigration.
Is there any issue with fire safety or aesthetic or what?
No.
What's keeping the city from issuing a certificate of use?
Well, they have to clear up. They have to clear up with the fire department first because they need an annual fire permit from the fire department. So if the fire department deem it unsafe, then they're not going to give them annual fire permit.
Okay,
And in order to get a certificate of use permit,
so the issue is about the doors.
yeah, according to the fire department, yes.
Okay, what's your recommendation?
Well, basically, they cannot get a permit from the city until they cross that hurdles, because they need a permit from the city. So basically, and they can't get a certificate of use. So basically, if they said, if the fire department need the correction, we have to wait until when the correction, they made a correction until the permit is issued before.
Okay, so do you agree that they're moving in the right direction?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna table it for 30 days.
We
Your
need
Honor,
60.
Can we have 60?
You need 60?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Is that because the city is, the fire department is sitting on the
Exactly.
plans?
Correct.
How do you know it's 60?
Because from last time to now, I just have 2 appointments with the fire department. One, they send us a correction. When the architect sent the correction, he said, no, I said, I want to see you to explain to me. So take 1 month only between Miami-Dade and me going back and forth.
And Your
Is-
Honor, that's paying the fast fee that we pay. So
Expedited?
Expedited
Yes.
fee, so.
Yeah. And are we talking about a fire safety exit
So
issue?
everything start with a violation from fire department. So this violation give this situation. So we apply for the city, with city for the permit. They stamp the plans, but they said, okay, you need to go to the fire department. And they give you the stamp on your plans, which is correct. But now I'm in the fire back and forth. I hope I will fix tomorrow.
Okay, and we're dealing with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue? Okay, and you have an inspector that you're dealing with?
Yes, and he said if you need, you can call him, he will tell you, and he will call also the inspector because he brought the book and said, no, by book you have to have only 2 doors, not 3. So,
Okay, so, and currently the plans show 3 doors,
yes,
and you need to have 2 doors?
yes.
Okay,
How is initial?
okay.
Initial is like this.
What happened, one inspector gave a violation, and then the other inspector says, no, you don't need that. After everything was submitted, we have to remove it,
Yeah.
and do it like the original.
Yeah,
you did before.
I understand, you know, the issues with the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue are very complicated, and you can get one inspector to rule one way, another inspector rules totally different. I understand that. So if you need you said 60?
60 days,
60
please.
days, I'm gonna table it for 60 days.
Thank you very much, I
Okay,
appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
The next case is MAR 2305 Northeast 123rd Street LLC. The case number is MHVIO 2019-00035. Gary Beswick is the officer.
Anybody present on behalf of the owner? No? City?
Good afternoon, Gary Beswick for the City of North Miami Building Department. This property was cited to fill
Can you cite the property again? I missed it.
2305 Northeast 123rd Street.
I got it. Okay,
Um,
proceed.
Basically, the property was cited to obtain required permits for interior and exterior renovation in progress. They applied for some permit, but they didn't apply for everything that it was cited for. And I have some pictures to give you an idea what the property looked like, what it was doing. Basically, it's the property right before you cross the bridge on 123rd Street on your left-hand side, the White House Inn.
Mhm.
So basically, they went inside and they was doing some alteration, opening up walls, putting up fence, doing some pool restoration, all different type of things they was doing. So basically, they need permits for all the activities that was going on the property. But
Any contact with the owner?
not the owner, the contractor was here the last time. The last year, and the contractor was here.
And what happened?
They apply for some of the permit, but not apply for everything. So they do not have the permit that required for everything that they was doing on the property.
Okay. All right, I am going to find that based on the testimony and the pictures, the evidence, the property has been out of compliance since July 10th, 2019, which was the abatement date. I find in favor of the city, ratify the fines accrued to date in the amount of $500 per day, assess costs, and authorize the filing of a lien. The fines at $500 a day shall continue until there is full compliance.
Thank you.
The next case is Mara Henry, RCCOR 2018-00022. Gary Beswick is the officer.
Anybody representing the owner?
Yes, that's me.
What is your name, sir?
Stuart Henry.
Stuart Henry?
Yes.
What's your relationship to the property?
I'm the owner.
Okay. City, proceed.
Good afternoon. Harry Beswick for the City of North Miami. This property was cited for failure to obtain an approved reoccupancy certificate prior to title transfer. I spoke to the gentleman earlier. He said he wasn't aware of the requirement and he understood, so now he needs to go apply for the after the fact reoccupancy certificate.
Is that correct?
Yeah, basically when we bought the house, we actually had several delays in closing because there was some stuff that needed to be done. And then we were told we were all cleared to close by the title agent. And when we closed, turns out that there was a permit still hanging, and we've been fighting for about a year to get that finally settled up. So the contractor had already been, all the business to get them done had already been done by the seller. They finally finished that, and then so now that they finished that, they just closed the permit. I guess maybe about 2 months ago. The permit that it was a conversion that they were doing.
An open permit.
Right, and I didn't realize what Gary was saying, that we need
a certificate.
We need this after they finish that.
It's very unusual. I think this is the only city in South Florida that does it. Anytime you
No, it's about 4 of us. It's
about 4 of you?
Right.
Well, very unusual. I think it's a good idea, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea, but most cities don't, so I understand. So how much time do you need?
I'll go ahead and, as long as it takes, basically. I'm here now. He's out of the office, and I think I probably would need to see him before I can, negotiate it. But, I live like a walking distance, so, I didn't even drive over here. So, I'll come by, I guess, tomorrow and see if I can get that started, and then as long as it takes to get it finished.
All right, I'm going to give you 30 days. I think that should be enough.
Yeah, that
if
sounds good to
if
me.
you've
Yes,
closed your permit, if you've done all the work with
Right.
permits,
Well, there's a
think
re-inspection, right? So, how long does that take typically?
Well, once you submit it, I give you a call to make sure you put a phone number that you're going to answer. Because normally, the process where they apply for it, then the next day I call to schedule the inspection.
All
Sure.
right.
So,
So
yeah.
I'm going to give you some time. Based on the testimony of the city's code compliance officer and the property owner being in agreement, there's an open violation, which is the certificate of reoccupancy, and I find in favor of the city, enter an adjudication, set a compliance date of 30 days. In the event of non-compliance, there will be a daily fine of $100 until the violation is abated.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.